What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be tackling a starter issue in this 2004 Nissan Murano. As you can see over here, the starter does not crank at all. So on the Z50 platform, the starter is located underneath the battery tray. Now here we are testing the battery voltage to see if it have enough power to run the starter. So now we will be focusing on the starter. Now as I said, to get to the starter you need to remove the battery tray. Now 3 13mm bolts later, the battery tray is out. And now you can see the starter. Now we will reinstall the battery to test out the starter. Now what we will be doing is banging on the starter with a hammer or a socket extension or any heavy metal object we have. We will be doing so while engaging the ignition key. Now doing so will release any rust buildup inside the starter, or it could be related to weak brushes. Now if you listen closely, you can hear the starter trying to engage while hitting on it. Now that we are completely sure that the starter is bad, it's time to take it out. Now the transmission dipstick is blocking the way of the starter, so we gotta take that out first. It is held on with two 10mm bolts, one on the transmission and the other is on the bracket near the thermostat housing. Now believe it or not, the transmission dipstick came out in two pieces. It was broken in the middle. Probably from a previous fix from some mechanic, as you can see. Now a 13mm nut on the main power post on the starter. Now there is two 14mm bolts on the top and the bottom of the starter. Now the top bolt is easy to get to, unlike the other one, which is a nightmare. As you can see, you have no room to reach in with any type of any wrench. But we have a solution for that. And now, it's time to call out the big gun. Every single piece of extension that you and your neighbors and your friends own, just to get a starter bolt out. Now we just unplug the signal post and remove the top bolt for the starter, which we kept in place to hold the starter in. And then the starter will be out. Now we will be testing the starter on the ground. What you gotta do is to hook up the positive side of the battery to the positive main post of the starter, the negative side of the battery to the body of the starter, and then you jump the positive side of the starter to the signal of the solenoid. Now let me pause here for a second, before everyone starts roasting us in the comments. Let's get this straight. If a starter can turn on the ground with direct power, that does not mean that it can turn on an engine. Okay? The starter is free floating on the ground, turning with no resistance or load whatsoever. The engine is the cause of load and resistance on the starter. If the starter have weak brushes, it might turn on the ground, but it won't turn the engine on. Okay? Let's get back to the video. Welcome back, guys. 2 hours later, we are back. As you can see, the starter is all back and assembled. We welded the dipstick tube. And here is the old burnt out brush set. As you can see, it's junk. Now it's time to install the starter. The assembly is the reversal of the disassembly. Put the starter back in place, hook up the top bolt to hold it in place, and then so on and so forth. Now I'll leave you alone with some music show. Now the moment we all been waiting for. Will it start? Stupid noisy blender. Yep, of course it does. Okay guys, so we've reached the end of this video. Hope you found it informational, helpful and entertaining. Make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button. Peace out.